don't even know whose Zoom this is. So let me just record it to my computer. Amazing. Thank you, Kim. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover today. Into next week, we're going to take it a bit further. We're going to go really in depth on how to utilize our signals, right? But specifically focusing on risk management. Okay, because you guys are going to start taking signals, but you need to know, how much you are risking before you take a trade. Okay, you need to know how big a stop loss is, how to calculate that, all of that kind of stuff. We're going to look at the difference between market execution, pending orders, and really go in on MetaTrader 5, making sure you guys how to understand how to move your stop loss to break even, all that good stuff. Okay, we get into week 3, we're going to up it a little bit, get a little bit more complicated, but not really. I'm still going to keep it basic, but how and where to look for the economic news. How might that influence your trading and affect it? What you should pay attention to. Okay, I'm going to do briefly how to use tools on TradingView to help you with your risk management. And then week 4, we're going to really be going into looking at the charts, understanding how to find a trend, how to understand where the market is trending. Okay, so we're going to look at market structure, and we're then going to look at the tools that you have at your disposal, the scanners we have, Zonar and IFVG, how to set those up, and then I'll also do a brief tutorial on how to use them. Because by the time you get to week 4, what you really want to be doing, okay, what you really want to be doing is starting to take trades for yourself, or at least feeling comfortable enough to go on the scanner and start practicing. Okay, because signals, they are going to make you money. When Prime Sync comes out, that's just going to be on autopilot and you won't even have to physically place a trade anymore with the signals. So ideally, what you then want to be doing is actually learning the skill. Because it's the skill that's going to continue to pay you for the rest of your life. Now, God willing, PrimeVerse is here for another 50 years, right? But if for whatever reason, let's say, the traders stop sending trades, that's going to mean your income stops because you don't actually know how to trade for yourself. You're just relying on someone else's signals. Okay, so you really want to learn the skill. Now, someone's asked, will we be able to analyze the chart ourselves? I mean, Adrian, that's the goal, is you want to be able to analyze the chart for yourself. Okay, by the end of this week, though, like we're just going over the basics. Okay, it's like learning a new language. Okay, if you're going to start to learn French, for example, in 4 weeks, you're not going to be able to speak French fluently, right? You might know some basics. You might know how to say, hello, bonjour, comment ça va? You might know that. You might know how to maybe conjugate some verbs, but it's going to be highly unlikely in 4 weeks you can fluently speak French, right? This is just your intro in terminology and to set you up a good foundation, but then you're gonna go on and you're gonna attend the educators' live sessions. You're gonna, go on their sessions where they're actually analyzing, looking at the live charts. That's where you're gonna learn, Adrian. This is just setting you up for that success. Okay? So with that being said, are we ready to get into it? Because I'm actually super excited to kind of go through this course with you. And I really hope there's 34 people on tonight. I hope to see 34 of you back next week for week 2. But then tell some people in your team, right? If you're in a group chat and you see people who started around the same time as you and they are not on this session, they need to be on this session. Okay. So let's start with the very, very basics. Okay. And I've said it before, it's education. If you haven't done so already, you have 3 modules pre-recorded on the PrimeVerse website. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing the advanced courses in your first couple weeks. You're just going to confuse yourself. But I would highly suggest doing the introduction course and doing the foundation course, going through it, taking notes. Again, as a teacher, I'm going to go on about the importance of taking notes, but it's because it comes from a knowledge and an understanding that you are only going to retain about 5% of what you watch. Like from this session, you're probably only going to retain about, maybe 5% of what I said, which is why you should be taking notes as we go along. So that way you can come back to it and look at it later. Okay. It takes something like 15 times for your mind to have, or your brain to have read and processed information before it goes into your short short-term memory, right? That's not even to say your long-term memory. For it to go in the long term, you need to consistently repeat it over and over and over. Okay? It's the same thing with driving. Okay? Drop a one in the chat if you drive, right? You're over, well, maybe what, 16 now to get a license? Drop a one in the chat if you drive. Okay? That's going to be quite a few of us, especially for all, adults. Okay? When you first started learning how to drive, the first thing was maybe you had a parent teach you. And you were probably scared shitless, and you had to keep reminding yourself, okay, I need to the right pedal is the gas and the left pedal is the brake, right? You might have if you're driving stick. I know if some of you are over in the UK, I see Torre who's in my team, over in the UK for some reason they still drive manuals everywhere. I think that's bonkers. Okay, but if you're driving a manual, you've got to like, trying to be switching, what I don't even know what it is, get the clutch and to be honest, I can't drive manual. Okay? But after a year, 2 years, you become a bit more confident, driving becomes second nature, and you get to a point where maybe you're going to work, a route that you've traveled hundreds of times before, and you feel like you literally blinked an eye and you're already there. Like you don't even remember driving there because you're literally on autopilot, right? So we get to that stage where we've done something over and over and over again that we become something called unconsciously competent, meaning you don't even have to think about it for you to do it. Okay. And that's how we eventually want to be with trading, but it's going to take time. And if you don't continue to learn and you don't continue to grow, that's going to be difficult. Okay. So let's get to it. Would you offer any homework or what we can practice? I mean, I'm going to do quizzes. I actually didn't tell anyone this in the last session. I'm going to do quizzes at the beginning of each session. And whoever gets the highest score by the end of the 4 weeks, I'm going to have some sort of little reward. I haven't really decided what it's going to be. But yeah. So I would also, that's another good reason to take notes, right? Because, we're gonna do some quizzes. Okay, cool. So when it comes to Forex, and I'm starting right from the very beginning because I didn't know this. Okay, Forex is almost $7 trillion a day market, right? $7 trillion a day goes through the Forex market. Okay, so this isn't some small little thing you joined. Okay, I know a lot of us maybe joined it to, yes, like a side hustle. Okay, but this is something that, well, banks are trading most of this. Us as retail traders, are only a small, small portion of this. But I don't know about you guys. I will take a small portion of $7 trillion. Okay, I will be very happy with that. Okay, but with the Forex market, all we are doing is buying and selling currencies at the right time for the right price in order to make ourselves a profit. Okay, now I get a lot of questions a lot about when we sell, okay, because I'm saying buying and selling currencies, but people think if the market is going down, let's say the value of gold is going down, right? People think that should be a cause for panic. No, we're not physically buying gold. Okay, if I were to buy an ounce of gold right now at I don't know whatever gold's at today, 5,000 whatever, right? Let's say it's at $5,100. Okay, and tomorrow it dipped down to 4,900. Okay, if I bought that ounce of gold, yeah, my portfolio, my investment would have just devalued, right? It would have gone down. But when we're trading, we're essentially just betting on where the market is going to go in the next 30 minutes, 1 hour, maybe one day, right? Where is the price of gold going to go? Okay, so that is what we are doing when we are Forex trading. Okay, so again, right time, right price in order to make ourselves a profit. Okay, now I'm not going to go through all of this, okay, because you guys can read. But what I do want to touch on is that the Forex market operates 24 hours a day almost. Okay, that actually needs to be corrected. It's 23 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I'm going to show you the 1 hour that as a beginner trader, most of you aren't going to know about, but you need to be aware of. Okay, and that's when we are trading. Okay, so there's four different trading sessions. Okay, these are the four different major stock exchange in the world. So you've got Sydney, you've got Tokyo, you've got London, and you've got New York. Now, Sydney and Tokyo, we usually kind of lump together and we call that Asian session. Okay, so currently we would be in Asian session because both of those markets are currently open. Okay, then you've got London session and New York. Those are the most common to trade because Asian session typically has less volume. Your trades are probably going to move quite a bit slower, right? Especially if you're taking Forex pairs. Gold, nowadays gold can still see really good movement during Asian session. Okay, so you can definitely still trade it. But during Asian session, what Forex pairs do you think would be best to trade? Somebody tell me in the chat box, if we have Sydney and we have Tokyo, those stock markets open, what Forex pairs, or rather currencies, I should say, what currency do you think we'd want to be trading? Japanese yen is one, absolutely. There you go, Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar. Okay, so if you're going to be looking to trade during Asian session, you want to be trading pairs that have those in it. So my personal favorite pair is GBP NZD. That is what I most commonly trade during Asian session. I just love the way she moves, right? GBP NZD is Bay. But I know a lot of people like UJ, they like GJ. I personally hate trading the Japanese yen. I don't know why. It never behaves for me. Okay. But that's what you'd want to be trading. Then when we get to London session, right? What currency pairs would you predominantly want to be trading during London session? Again, there's kind of three, I would say two main ones, but then there's one little side one. Yes, Great British Pound, absolutely. There we go. Euro. Yeah, you can still trade Euro, USD coming up to New York session for sure. Okay, but you've got the Great British Pound, which is obviously, London, UK. You've got the Euro. There's actually the Swiss franc as well. Okay, that you could be trading during London session because those currencies are all within, UK and Europe. Yeah, perfect. And XAU USD, I'm glad someone mentioned that. You can trade gold in any session, to be fair. Like gold, especially the way it's been moving the last few months, you can catch trades on gold pretty much every session. And then you've got New York session, which is of course the US dollar, the Canadian dollar, although I don't really trade the Canadian dollar a lot, but those would be kind of your two main. Okay, so what I did want to mention though, right? And the reason why I'm showing this is because indices, okay, great question, Kim. Indices will be based on which indice you're trading. So if it is US 30, NAS 100, or SP 500, you would want to be doing that during New York session for the most part. Okay, especially when New York opens, that's when those indices tend to really get moving because obviously that's when the New York stock market opens and people are putting in oh my goodness, sorry, I can hear my son just losing his mind. I put him to bed, but he's anyways, let me try. My mom's in there. Um, so yeah, but if you're trading, let's say you're in Europe, right? You could be trading DAX 40, okay, or JUR 30. So you want to trade indices that are tied to that specific stock market. I think the Aussie one, there's one in Australia. Do you know what? I never trade it, so I can't remember what it's called, right? But there's indices that are tied to different, stock markets. Okay. So that being said, just some key things to say just here at the bottom that I wanted to talk about. So the market opens, for those of you who don't know, Sunday at 5 p.m. EST. So depending on where you are in the world, okay, that's when the Sydney session opens and starts. Okay, if you're in the UK, that's 10 p.m. If you're in Europe, that's 11 p.m. Okay, so on and so forth. But the market closes for 1 hour every day. Okay, it's between 5 to 6 p.m. EST. So for that 1 hour, you can't open a trade, you can't close a trade, you can't modify a trade. Okay, so if you were wanting to, I don't know, move your stop loss to break even, you can't do anything within that 1 hour. Okay, now there's some tips for that hour because it's been nicknamed spread hour because during this hour, your spread, especially on certain Forex pairs, will open up really wide. Now, what can sometimes happen if you're still in a trade, it could prematurely take you out of a trade because maybe your stop loss was too tight or, whatever the case may be. So just some tips, especially if you're a beginner and you're not kind of fully aware of the impact spread hour can have sometimes. Number one, I would never personally take a trade right before the market closes. So if the market closes at 5 p.m. my time, if it gets to 4:30, even if I see like what I think is like an A star setup, I'm not going to take the trade until the market opens again. Okay, so that's why it's important to be aware of this hour. So avoid taking trades right before. Okay, number two, make sure, especially with gold, right? Make sure your take profit and your stop loss are set. Okay, because if your stop loss isn't set, and let's say you're in a sell on gold and the market opens and there's a huge gap, right? Which if you look on a MetaTrader 5 chart when the market opens, it can create these gaps and it buys and it massively goes up, but also leaves this massive gap. All of a sudden, you could be down, 300 pips. Okay, so make sure, your take profits and your stop losses are set. But more common than not, especially, when I lived in the UK, if I was happy with my profits, right, I would just close my trade because I'm about to go to bed, right? If you're over on that side of the world and, the market doesn't open back up till 11 o'clock, I mean, when I was teaching, right? Not so much now, but when I was teaching, I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm sleeping by 11 o'clock. So I don't want to leave my trades open all night and not be able to manage them, especially if you're a swing trader, then that's cool. But for the kind of trading we're doing, you want to be able to at least monitor your trades. Okay. Are there any questions on this before I move on? I just want to make sure I'm not kind of, I have the tendency to talk a little bit fast. I don't know if that's a Canadian thing, but I just want to make sure that everybody's good with this. If not, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, cool. I'm going to assume we're good. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. I want you to tell me what you think you need. Like, what's the number one thing you need in order to trade successfully? And I've put a hint. It's not a good strategy. It's not a broker. It's not MetaTrader 5. You need those things. But the key word here is successfully. What do you need in order to trade successfully? Okay, discipline is like a big one. Okay, psychology, mindset. Okay, yes. You guys know. Maybe some of you have been on my session before. Patience is another one too. But yeah, you need a good trading psychology. Okay, risk, someone's put risk. You definitely need that. Okay, and that's going to be something you learn and it's part of your trading plan. But that's going to come under having a good psychology. Okay. Your trading psychology refers to your mental state and your emotions that determine the success or failure of a trade. It's not your strategy. It's not the signal. Okay. It is you that's going to determine the success or failure. Okay. It represents the aspects of a trader's behavior and characteristics that will influence your actions when taking a trade. Okay. This part is so, so important. Okay. Because we will all be in a situation. I'm gonna give a scenario here. Okay. Especially if you've been in the signal group for, a few days, right? You will probably have seen a signal drop and very quickly TP1's been hit, but you haven't had the chance to take a trade yet. Drop a one if that's happened to you. If the signal came out and boom, TP1 was hit, but you didn't have a chance, you missed it. Okay. Now, that was a good trade. It was a good signal. But if you don't have the right psychology, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, well, TP1 was only 30 pips. If this goes all the way to TP5, that's 400 pips. Let me just enter now. Drop a two if you have entered a trade when it's already hit the TP1, hoping to catch the rest of the move. There's got to be more than one person. Okay, right? That is your psychology influencing your actions. You are worried or you are not wanting to miss a move, so you enter a trade late. Now, what happens? Well, if you enter a trade late, you've just basically added an extra 30 pips to your stop loss because if that now reverses and heads towards your stop loss, you've just risked 30 extra pips where everybody else who took the trade at the right time has made money. If a signal hits TP1, in my mind, that is a winning trade. You now need to manage the rest of your entries, move your stop loss to break even. That is a winning trade. Okay, FOMO, 100%. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I've like everybody's gonna feel it. You're all gonna feel it. We're all human beings. Okay, but you want to get to a point where you are like a robot where if you lose a trade, you feel no emotion. If you win a trade, even if it's a 500 pip move and you win a trade, you still don't feel any emotion. This needs to become like driving for you. It needs to become second nature. It's something you need to do without thinking and without emotion. Okay? Because when we first started driving, I don't know about you guys, but I was scared shitless, right? Second guessing if I need to hit the pedal and oh my gosh, then I got to put my signal on and I got to switch lanes. Like you probably, if you're like me, I don't think there's anybody who's not scared at least a little bit when you first start driving, right? You're in control of a vehicle now. But as time goes on, you are going to be less and less fearful. The same thing with trading. If you see red in your MetaTrader 5 when you first start trading, you're probably going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to lose money. Oh, sorry, one second. Mom, why don't you just leave him in there? Just let him cry it out. Yeah, I know, but sorry. My son's had a bit of a sleep regression, so he's used to sleep really good. Now he's doing this thing where as soon as you put him down, he screams bloody murder. Okay, so let's keep going though. This is why you have grandparents. Okay, cool. So let me get a little bit further, okay? And then we're gonna come off this topic, but this is something we're gonna talk about a lot because it is the most important. Okay, but what do you think are the two main emotions that are going to influence someone's trading? What are the two main emotions that's going to cause you to maybe jump in a trade late? Maybe up your lot size, maybe take that extra entry when you shouldn't. Okay, one of them is fear. It could be fear of missing out. We already said FOMO. Okay, it could be fear of loss because like you're actually fearful you're gonna lose the trade if it starts going towards your stop loss. Okay, yes, and the other is absolutely greed. Okay, now those two emotions, I'm going to focus on fear a bit more first because greed is something, I mean, we all want money. I get it. Okay, but fear, you need to understand what's going to trigger your fear. Okay, so you want to be thinking about what outside factors in your life could affect someone's like, well, could affect your emotions, right? I'm talking about you specifically. Okay, because we all, we're all adults here. We all have different lives. You might have, you've got kids, you've got a family, maybe you've got college debt to pay, maybe you've got, credit card bills, you've got, tons of responsibility. We all have different things in our lives that could be affecting our emotions when we trade. Now, one for me was more anger. When I was still teaching, I used to take trades while I was at work, right? So I'd maybe be in some trades and I taught teenagers. So, just mind my French, but they can piss you off, right? Teenagers can be little jerks sometimes. So if I had a particularly bad lesson where, my students were really irritating me, and then I went and I'd look at my phone and okay, I have a trade in drawdown. Okay, let me take another entry. And it got to a point, there was in a couple days where I had lost so much money that I was like, okay, Shannon, we need to set a rule. And part of your trading plan is you cannot take trades at work. Right? Because my annoyance with the students and just my, anger in general caused me to be irrational when it came to my trading account. So you need to figure out what triggers you and set those boundaries, right? If you have a high stress job, probably not a good idea for you to even take signals at work Unless you've got PrimeSync running for you in the background, which God willing, we're going to have soon for everyone, okay, you shouldn't maybe be taking trades at work, right? Maybe at home, you've got like a really busy household. Maybe you've got a few kids. Maybe you're, I don't know, you've got friends over or whatever the case may be. If at home can be a stressful place for you, maybe you just the hour in the morning when you're the only one awake and that's your quiet time, that's when you sit on the charts. Okay, so you need to figure that out. But this is something you're going to have to work on. And I think a lot of people underestimate this part of it. They just think if I get some good signals, and our signals are pretty much since we've launched the PV Insights has been 80% and above. So there should be absolutely no reason why someone just taking signals shouldn't be profitable, right? And a big reason why people aren't profitable is because they don't have a good psychology. Okay, so good news is, I don't want to like be all like doom and gloom here, but I just want to stress the importance. But the good news, you can improve your trading psychology. Just like you're probably now a better driver, right? Just like you're probably now a better driver, okay? You can become a better trader psychologically. First and foremost is education, right? You just have to keep educating yourself, keep coming on sessions like this, keep going on the live sessions, keep reading books, right? Trading in the zone. Let me type that in the chat box. I should have put that on here. Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. If you want to take trading seriously, you will buy and read that book. Okay? No road. Exactly. No road rage, no trade rage. Okay, but Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, phenomenal, phenomenal book. And it's talking about how you can trade in the zone, and most of it is without emotion, right? And he kind of breaks down, I'm not going to go into it because I read it a long time ago. I know some key things, but I'm not going to butcher the overall message of the book, but definitely, definitely read it. Okay. But the second one, and for me, this is actually probably even more important is you need to develop yourself as a person. Okay. You need to grow. If you want to become a consistently profitable trader, and I think pretty much I've been in this industry 5 years, and I think every single profitable trader I know, right, will say they are a completely different person than when they started trading. I mean, if you speak to anyone who's wildly successful, if they've made multiple six figures, multiple millions of dollars, they will tell you it is because they had to become a different person, right? If you're somebody who wants to make multiple six figures, well, if you were already that kind of person, you'd already have that kind of money, right? So you need to start developing as a person. So those are just some, right? Some things I suggest. Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. It's a 30-minute audio. It is free on YouTube and Spotify. Listen to it. Listen to it, take it seriously, and do what it tells you to do. Okay? Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Again, if you're not like a book person, you can listen to this on audio, but that book is literally a manual on how to become wealthy. Like it literally is step by step. This is everything you need to do in order to see the kind of success that you want to see. Whatever you visualize for your future, whatever you want, you can get it by applying those principles in that book. Okay. Again, I don't know a single like multiple six, seven-figure earner who has not read that book and not just read it once, but studied it and applied it. Okay. Atomic Habits is another one. Like there's so many you can read in terms of like finances as well. The Psychology of Money is another good one, right? Listening to things like Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor. Okay. Basically anything that's going to encourage your growth. Now, if you were on at the beginning of the call, you saw me listening to, and let me bring it up. Don't want to like mess up my slides here. But I was listening to this amazing playlist that I found called Millionaire Frequency, right? I don't often like listen to music just to listen to music anymore. Like if I have stuff in the background, if I'm working, I'm listening to stuff that's pouring life into what I want, right? And if I highly suggest listening to this playlist. Number one, it sounds catchy, right? So it's a good thing to listen to, but it reprograms your mind, right? If you're listening to things that's all about abundance and money coming to you freely, money coming to you from everywhere, and the whole song and this whole playlist speaks positivity, it speaks wealth, it speaks abundance. Right? If you're listening to like, dull, depressing stuff that's just filling your head with nonsense all day, then, that's kind of tends to what happens. Right? So just listening and reading stuff that is going to make you just a better person, just grow as a human being. And I guarantee you, if you do that, and if you just took this part seriously, I guarantee you will become a better trader because you've become a better person. You might, like when I first started, and I was a teacher, okay, and my very first trading company, like we're talking 5 years ago, when I first started, learning, it was less than a month before I realized like my life was actually surrounded by so much negativity. Because when I'm at school and I'm speaking to other teachers, I'm talking about negativity about the kids, right? If some students were annoying that day, I'm talking negativity about the workload. I'm talking negativity about the leadership in the school. I'm talking negativities about some of my colleagues, right? It becomes a vicious cycle. Right. And I actually rode to work with another teacher. So even on the drive to work, we're talking negativity, right? I get home, and like, I don't know if this is just all jobs or if it was just teaching, but you're wishing for the weekend and Friday comes and you're straight to the pub to drink away the horrible week you just had. Right. And yes, it's part of who I was hanging around with. So I was constantly surrounded by teachers and that was my norm, right? I didn't know any different. But then I get in this trading company and there's people celebrating each other, like people are posting their profits and other people are congratulating them and people are hitting ranks and people are talking about personal development and I'm like, "Oh my God." Like really made me realize how negative. I thought I was living a good life. I still traveled. I was, I thought I was happy, but it's like actually everything I am speaking is actually negative. So it wasn't until I actually started doing personal development, I distanced myself from the people in my life who were negative. And now, 5 years later, well, number one, I've been able to retire, but pretty much everyone in my phone book that I would consider like a friend have made six figures, multiple six figures. I have millionaires in my phone book. I'm going to lunch tomorrow with someone who's made over $100 million in this industry. Right? So if you start growing yourself, you'll start attracting people who want the same things that you do. This is the only way to get out of maybe a cycle that you are in because that's what the world pushes us into, right? We're supposed to, go to school, get good grades, go to college or university, get a career and stay in that career for the rest of your life, right? That's what most of us do. That's the trajectory I was on. Okay? So start growing yourself as a person. Okay? Have trading rules and stick to them. Okay. Now you can, speak to the person who you joined with, speak to your mentor, whoever you're working with about some good trading rules. Okay. But for me personally, because everyone's going to be slightly different based on their schedule, based on the type of trader they are. Okay. But some trading rules I have. Number one, if I've lost more than 3 to 5%, I stop trading for the day. Right. So if I've lost 3 to 5% of my account balance, I stop trading. Okay. If I've made 3 to 5% of my account balance, I stop trading. Now that one's the hardest part because if you're up and then a signal comes in by like D trades and you're like, ooh, let me just take one more, that's the hardest one, actually knowing when to stop, especially if you're up. Okay. Some other good trading rules, especially if you're a beginner, like only risk 1 to 2% of your account balance in any given trade. Right? You shouldn't be risking like 10, 15, 20% of your account in one trade. That's crazy, right? This is a long-term game, so you need to have a long-term mentality, right? And have clear goals for your trading. And next week we're going to go through how to, create a trading plan, like a compounding plan or a monetary one, whatever you want, but also have life goals. Okay, and this is actually going to be part of your homework. Adrian, you asked about homework. This is going to be your first piece of homework. Number one, write down your goals. This alone will separate you from most of the population, 95% of the population. So to start with, I want you to write down 10 finance related goals that you want to achieve in 2026. The bigger, the better. Okay. So you might like maybe there's some debt that you want to pay off. Maybe you want to have a certain amount of money saved up. Maybe you want to make a certain amount of income per month extra trading or with the affiliate side, right? If you're an IB. Okay. Have 10 finance related goals. Okay. These were my goals in 2022. Now, I actually wrote down in all different aspects of my life, personal, like relationships, like you can, I would highly suggest that, maybe if you're new to goal setting, just start with the 10, right? But you want to have goals for all aspects of your life. Now, I put this on here because 2022 was the year that I made the most amount of money since actually starting this industry between 2021 and 2022. But that was the year where I took goal setting, affirmations, personal development so seriously. Right now, on there, the very first one is I am a seven-figure earner. Now, do you know what? I still haven't hit that. Okay. I have hit six figures, multiple six figures. Okay. Not hit the seven, but it's okay. You don't have to hit it on the date that you set. It's your progress towards the goal. Okay. Now on here, I also had my top goal in the middle. I am a successful, consistent, profitable trader. To measure this, I will have, and I set myself extra goals. Okay. Oh my gosh, my son, still hear my son. He's just having an absolute meltdown. Um, but anyways, this also, guys, just to give you some context here, this took up an entire wall in my bedroom, an entire wall. Okay, so break down your goals. Now, this are my goals for this year because this year, okay, I had my son, okay, last year. So I was, he was a newborn at the beginning of the year. I was in no fit states or mentally to sit and write down goals. If you're a mom, you probably know that newborn haze. I was in no position to write down a goal. Okay, but this year I did. Okay, I've got my top financial goals are on the screen in front of you. Okay, so one of my main goals is to make 100K per month by December 31st, 2026. And if you look down at the bottom, like I have investment related goals. I want to have savings for my son. I want to have 20K saved by December 31st. And then I've broken that down to how I'm going to achieve that 5K by March, 10K by June, 15K by October, right? But what you then want to do, okay, once you've set your goals, is create a vision board, okay, and find ways to be reminded of your goal multiple times a day. So if you've created a vision board and let's say it's on your wall in your bedroom, but you spend most of your time at work, right? You spend most of your time at work, so you're not looking at your vision board. So I would highly suggest also have a digital one so that you can put on your phone. You might print one out and stick it in your car, like find ways to have it on your mind all the time. Now, one of the things I did in 2022, and I did this again this year, is I actually ordered, if you go onto Etsy and put in like metal goal card, you can customize, a card that you can then maybe carry around in your wallet. You could have it in your phone case, right? So mine, I've got three main goals for this year that I've put on a card so that I can read it and look at it every single day, multiple times a day. Okay, so again, this is for those of you who really, really are going to lock in and you genuinely want to change your life. You have to do something different if you want different results. So most of you are going to ignore this and you're not going to write down your goals and you're not going to do a goal card, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay, but for those of you who do take this serious and you do write down your goals and you do go get a goal card, by December, I want you to message me on Instagram and I want you to tell me what you have achieved. Because I guarantee you, you will have achieved something. Even if you didn't hit your goal, you will have progressed towards your goal more than the person who chooses to ignore this and just stay the same person that they've always been. And they're going to get the same results that they've always gotten. Okay? You can take it or leave it. Okay? You can take that one or leave it. But then step 3, create a compounding plan. Okay? Create a compounding plan so you can see in a year's time where your trading account could be if you stick to your goals. Okay. And like I said, next week we are going to go through trading plans. Okay. So if you're not quite sure what a compounding, plan is and how to make one, I'm going to show you. But hopefully, understanding what your goals are and where you want to get to will help you stay disciplined and hopefully help with your psychology. Okay. Now, last thing, guys, last thing we're going to cover, okay, is how we're actually going to make money. Okay. Once you set your goals, once you've got your compounding plan, okay, how are you actually going to make money? Now, first and foremost, there's two main terms that every one of us should know. Okay. If you're just maybe joined today, you might not know these. Okay. But number one, we make money, or rather, we make more money the more the market moves in the direction of our trade. Okay, so if we were to click the buy button on gold right now, okay, and gold continues to go up and up and up, the more it goes up, the more money we're going to make. But the same goes for how much we can lose. Okay, the more the market goes against the direction of the trade, the more we stand to lose, which is why you need to know before entering any trade how much you will lose before you enter it. Okay, so we're going to go over how to do that. Now, this is calculated in something called pips. So, pip is literally just a unit of measurement of the market. Okay, so if I were to say I'm 182 centimeters tall, the centimeter is a measurement of my height. If I was shorter, then obviously there would be less centimeters. If I was taller, there would be more centimeters. Okay, but how much we make, okay, is based by how much we have risked per pip. Okay, and I even put this one in big letters. Okay, and if you've gone through the basics course, you should hopefully know what this is, and that is a lot size. So the lot size will determine how much we are risking per pip of movement. Okay, so there's three different lot sizes. You've got mini lots, you've got micro lots, and you've got standard lots. Now, personally, if you have less than $1,000 in your account and you are a beginner, you shouldn't even be touching or thinking about using a mini lot or above. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there right now. Okay, but let's break it down because this probably, and this for me, when I first saw this, is like, oh my God, I'm terrible at maths. But the more you look at it, the easier it's going to be. Okay, so a micro lot is 0.01. Okay, this is the smallest possible lot size you can take, and you would be risking 10 cents per pip of movement. Okay, this goes all the way up to 0.09, which would be 90 cents per pip of movement. Okay, 0.02 would be 20 cents, 0.03 would be 30 cents, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's actually do an example, and this is where I'm gonna hopefully have some engagement in the chat. Okay, but if I were to take a 0.01, lowest possible risk, and the stop loss was 50 pips. Now, I say 50 pips because a lot of our gold signals are 50 pip stop losses. Okay, so if this goes and hits my stop loss, how much money am I going to lose? And I even worked it down for you, 0.10 times 50. Okay, $5, $5, exactly. Okay, so if this goes and hits my stop loss, I'm going to lose $5. Okay, now this is based on the US dollar. So if you're, if you're Canadian, I know we got a lot of Canadians on the call, it's going to be slightly higher than $5. If your account is in Great British pounds, it's going to be slightly less than $5. Okay, but just for the most part. Okay, so it's going to be $5. Okay, now when it comes to trading, this is not going to be everyone, but for me, it's the percentage that's important when it comes to your risk. Okay, so if I'm going to lose $5 and I have $500 in my account, that is a 1% loss. Okay, so if I'm willing to risk, let's say 2% on a trade, then I might take two entries, or I might take a 0.02, okay, which would make it $10, which is 2% of my $500. Okay, maybe that's getting a bit too complicated. Okay, but let me type this out. Okay, so $5. Where'd that go? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to lose $5. Okay, what about if it was 100 pip stop loss? Still a 0.01, But let's say it was a bigger stop loss because we do have some. I think there was one today that was 90 pips. Okay, so 100 pips would be a $10 loss. Okay, what if I had a bigger lot size? Exact same trade, a 50 pip stop loss, let's say is this first one, but I decide I'm going to take a 0.05. Maybe that's the trade where I think, oh, the signals have been on fire. Let me just move my lot size up a little bit. Okay, now I'm risking $25 instead of $5. That's a big difference. If I have that same $500 in my account, I'm actually now taking a 5% loss. Okay? Put a one if that makes sense, especially if you're new. I know I went through that really quick just because we need to finish in like 5 minutes. So is the pip calculation same for, sorry, I'm just, for Forex, gold, and BTC? Yeah, so okay, that's going to be how you calculate pips. So when it comes to gold, do you know what? I'll cover that on my next session, right? How to calculate pips. BTC is a little bit different. So we'll go through that next week. Okay, but for the most part, gold and Forex, okay, they're the same if you're doing pips. And this is why our educators put like the pips in there for us so we can work out. Okay, I'm also going to show you guys how to use a risk calculator so that let's say you've got, I don't know, $345 in your account. If you wanted to only risk 1%, I'll show you exactly, how to use a risk calculator and how to figure that out. Okay, but this is just so you kind of understand the importance of your lot size, where you can't just, and this is where a lot of people, if you get a little bit greedy and you think, oh, 0.01, oh, last trade, I only made $5. I want to make more money than that. Let me just move it up to 0.03. Like, surely that won't make that big of a difference. Okay, but it does. Now, when it comes to mini lots, you're now risking a minimum of $1 per pip. Okay, so a 0.10 is now $1 per pip. So that same trade with a 50 pip stop loss, rather than using $5, you're going to lose $50. Okay, again, this is why I would say if you have less than 1,000 in your account, you shouldn't really be touching mini lots and above. Okay, and then you've got standard lots, which is 1.0, which is now you're risking $10 per pip. No problem, Nathan. Thanks for coming on. Okay, so let's finish up. Okay, last thing, just so we can see. Let's put this into action. Okay, this is obviously our signals that come in. So what I would do if I were you is look through our signal group just so you can see the stop loss sizes for the majority of our trades. Gold between 50 to 70 pips. So because you know that, you should then be able to know as soon as a signal comes in exactly what lot size you're going to use based on your account size, because you already know the stop loss size of most of our signals. Okay, so you want to be able to work that out. Okay, but in the first 2 weeks of February, I want you to focus on the total pips that were caught if you had have held. And obviously nobody's going to take all of the trades. Well, once we have Prime Sync, okay, but you're human. You're going to miss some of the signals. You have to sleep at some point. Okay, but let's just say, for argument's sake, you caught all of those trades. 19,408 pips. Let's just do 19,000 because for maths, it'll be easier. Okay, let's say you caught 19,000 pips. You only took a 0.01. How much money would you have made? Somebody tell me. I'm only risking the slowest amount, 0.01, 10 cents per pip, but you did 19,000 pips in the first 2 weeks of February. More than that. It's more than 190. There we go. Okay, if it was exactly, 1,900. Okay, it would be 1,940 and 89 cents if we did the whole thing. But 1,900. Okay, the reason why I wanted to show this, okay, is number one, you're not going to catch all of those trades. It's impossible, right? Let's say you only caught half though, right? 1,900, you made half, which is $800. The reason why I wanted to show this is to show you, you don't have to risk a lot. That's with a 0.01. What you want to be able to do with that information is understand you don't have to over risk to make money. You can hold trades. Get in the habit of holding trades. As a new trader, sometimes even experienced traders, right? You obviously, let's say you're seeing quite a bit of profit. The temptation is, oh, let me just close it and bank my profit. If you get in the habit of holding your trades to TP4, TP5, you're going to see a lot bigger gains, right? So 1,000 could make 1,900 profit taking all trades. Well, yeah, exactly. Somebody could only put started with, $200 and they still could have made that amount with a 0.01. It's crazy. Now, another reason why I wanted to show this, and this is the last thing I'm going to finish on, okay, is if you're a beginner and you're just taking these signals, right? Even if you only catch a quarter of them, say 25%, right? You should be profitable. With win rates like this and pip counts like this, and this is the first 2 weeks of February, but like last week was the same. Okay, I think last week was a 76% win rate. Okay, so a couple more losses than we'd seen previously, but still overall profitable. If you are currently not profitable, then you need to look back and learn lessons from it. Where did you go wrong? Did you take too many entries and that trade happened to hit stop loss? And then the next trade you're fearful, so you only took one entry and didn't follow your plan? Did you win a few trades in a row and then decide, okay, the next trade that comes in, okay, it's been on fire, let me just up my lot size. That happens to be the trade that hits stop loss, and now boom, all of your profits are gone. You guys have to be critical of yourselves. You can't lose a trade and be like, oh my God, the signals are rubbish, because they're not. Your mindset is. If you can't be self-critical and you can't take a loss and learn a lesson from it, then I promise you, trading is going to be a very difficult journey for you. You have to be able to take the loss and learn the lesson. Okay? So, guys, on that note, I'm going to end there. I hope you have all taken some value from this call. I hope you've taken notes because I'll be doing a quiz at the beginning of next week's session. I very hope as much to see all of you back here next week to go into week 2. Okay, so guys, take care. Have a phenomenal evening. I'll have my camera on next week. I don't like doing Zooms without my camera, but the Wi-Fi, I just couldn't risk it. Okay, so take care, guys. Bye. Have a good evening.